cannot obtain while the storm is over the ocean. The hunters send the data via satellite to the National Hurricane Center in Miami, where it will be used to create more precise forecasts.
The hurricane hunters do not do the forecasting. Our job is data collection. We're, in effect, the eyes and ears of the Hurricane Center.
Though they're best known for punching through hurricanes, the hunters also investigate low-level disturbances that may develop to something larger. The data they collect can increase the accuracy of Hurricane Center forecasts by as much as 25%. It's invaluable information, but as you'll see, gathering it is no easy task. On September 12, 2000, the hunters are asked to investigate a tropical disturbance off the coast of Nicaragua. The Hurricane Center is concerned the disturbance may develop into a tropical depression, the first sign of a hurricane's formation.
First mission in, so we don't have any report on turbulence, but he's saying thunderstorms are holding up pretty good, and it looks like a promising area for development, so we'll see what we find when we get down there. It's just to the east of Nicaragua, and over the last 12 hours, we've really seen a lot of thunderstorms bubbling up from this, so the Hurricane Center would like us to go down there and see what's in the middle of that.
The flight path from Biloxi will take the crew of 6 over international waters. The pilot, co-pilot, and navigator plot the coordinates and make sure they all have the necessary flight clearances. Once the aircraft takes off, it'll take about 3 hours to reach the Nicaraguan coast. It's the first of many hours that will be spent on the plane. As they near the targeted area, they begin looking for the disturbance. But it's not immediately clear where the center is located. Systems that are still forming can be much more difficult to diagnose than well-built ones.
Are you? Yeah. With a hurricane, it's there. You know, the center's there. It's pretty easy to pick up on radar. With a low-level infest, you may not have a center to find, and so you're basically going on scavenger hunt.
The hunters are trying to determine whether an area of closed circulation exists. One of the first signs that a tropical depression is formed and could develop into a hurricane. This area would be defined by winds coming from all 4 directions around a center of low pressure. If they find it, the system may be upgraded to tropical depression. As the plane levels off around 1,000 feet, Warren goes into detective mode, scanning the surface of the water for clues.
When you look out the window and look at the sea surface, we're looking at things like how big are the white caps? Are we seeing foam patches? Are we seeing streaks on the surface of the sea as the wind blowing the sea surface in a particular direction? And all of these are clues that help us determine the wind speed and direction.
Making these kinds of eyewitness observations is most effective when the plane is flown between 500 and 1,500 feet. But traveling at such a low altitude can get a little dicey.
As the storm gets stronger, we start seeing more in the way of thunderstorms, more in the way of downdrafts. And when you're that close to the surface of the ocean and you're at the risk of catching a downdraft, that's not a lot of room to recover.
Even preliminary missions like this one have inherent dangers. The Air Force has not lost a hurricane hunter's plane since 1974. And for the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron, the WC-130 has proven to be a reliable airplane.
C-130 is not as fast as a jetliner. We wouldn't want it to be, because just like going over speed bumps, high speed that damage your car, going over a slow rate of speed, just think of these thunderstorms and the turbulence we go through as speed bumps.
Once a storm intensifies, the plane will travel at between 5,000 and 10,000 feet. But even at this higher altitude, the ride isn't always smooth, particularly when you're flying into a hurricane.
And when a full-blown hurricane will go ahead and hit a lot of the severe turbulence at 5,000 and 10,000 feet. And our job is not to necessarily go through the turbulence, but that's part of the mission.
And he was actually the first real rough storm that I'd been in, and initially I was like, man, this is a little hairy, but we're all trained to handle that, and the aircraft is solid.
The wind starts picking up and the plane starts shaking, and if you could see outside on the wings, they'd be shaking all around, but usually you can't because there's so much rain, especially if it's night. You can't see the instruments anymore sometimes, and when the plane's shaking like that, you're holding on for the ride.
It's in these tough conditions that the hunters begin gathering weather data with high-tech instruments. A weather tube, called a dropson, is dropped from the back of the plane. A parachute allows it to float to the water's surface, all the while gathering valuable information.
Son's away.
The dropson transmits to the hunters precise wind